Hey, hey, hey. Good morning. I believe this is going to be take two. So I just shot this entire episode. I know I said I'm going to be going live every morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. So this morning I went live at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. I tried to make this video quality as good as possible. And with that, apparently I forgot to worry about making the audio quality as good as possible. So, yep, I just shot for 15 minutes a live episode and had Nick's Dynasty. Thanks, man, letting me know that the audio wasn't coming in, but I didn't see his comments until the very end. So I'm going to be shooting how I did on my first episode where the sound came through, and hopefully the video quality is still a little better. I think I was able to change some settings. But anyway, with no further ado, thank you so much for tuning in. I am really excited about today's show. I listened to a podcast called, it's from Rich Habits, and it's one of their earlier podcasts. It's episode number 5. I put it down in the comments down below, a link to Spotify, where you can go check it out. But it's called Making Your First Investment. And then it's passive income, real estate, and retirement is the focus. And basically, making your first investment can seem scary. You're buying something that isn't really tangible. Like I think back in the olden days, they'd give you a little stock certificate sheet of paper that you would get. Now it doesn't work like that. You can just like hop in Robinhood and buy some stocks. You no longer have the money, but you now own a portion of some stock or a full share or maybe more, just depending on how much you bought. But one of the things I really liked about this podcast, and that I also just want to tack onto, is the fact that it doesn't need to be scary, and it's pretty simple. And with very little work and very low effort, you can start putting your money to work for you. So I can just putting your money to work for you. What that means is essentially, rather than buying a consumable, let's say you buy a t-shirt. Now you don't have that money, someone else has that money, and you have a t-shirt. If you put your money to work for you, the idea is that you're buying something that should make you more money. So if you invest $1, then hopefully in the future you'll have $1.20 or $1.15. So that $1 made 15 cents for you or 20 cents. So I know that's not a very exciting number, but the bigger the numbers get, the more exciting it becomes. And it starts with like the very small, simple investments, and that starts to grow. So the first one, and just from a personal experience, I started really tracking my passive income in 2022 when I started this YouTube channel. And that is, I started going through, all right, Nick says we got audio. Good. This is take 2. So I started going in and tracking everything in 2022. So that's stocks, just money I earned from stocks, money I earned from ETFs, and then anything where my money's making me money. So even including Wealthfront. And I wasn't like super impressed in 2022 with how much money I was able to make, but just being able to track it month to month was helpful. And then it made me make different types of decisions when I was investing in 2023. Some of them were good decisions, lots of also not great decisions, which I share here, and you can go check out videos about some of those, like ZIM. I bought that just for passive income, but overall, it was a horrible long-term investment decision for me. But in 2023, I just wrapped up going through my 2023 passive income, and it had since tripled since 2022. So there's 2 reasons for that I think of. The first is the fact that in 2022 I was just tracking, and then in 2023 I was trying to outpace what I had done in 2022. So I was making those types of investment decisions. And I made about 3 times more in 2023 than I did in 2022, which is really exciting. So that's where once you first start investing, it's a very small amount and then it starts to grow. So one of the easy ways that I was mentioning to get started on your first investment, and that they mentioned in the podcast, is ETFs. So if you don't know what an ETF is, it is an exchange traded fund, and basically it is a stock that you can buy into that houses a bunch of other stocks. So I've also made a video about one of the ETFs that they mentioned. So I'm going to put that in the comments. And the one that they specifically called out is SCHD. And so far, SCHD has been an incredible performer. If you go look them up online, they are everywhere. I think my video title for SCHD was like the stock that's taking the internet by storm, or the ETF that's taking the internet by storm. Everyone's talking about them, and it's partly because of the dividend payout, which they do have a good dividend payout. I believe it's between 3 and 4%, which is nice. But the crazy part is over the past 5 years, they have had an increase of 47% in value. So it's not just the fact that you're getting a dividend payout, it's the fact that you have a 47% appreciation on that ETF. So to put that in perspective, when you put your money in Wealthfront, right now I have a lot of my cash just sitting in Wealthfront, and that's earning about a 5% return over the course of the year. But that money won't go up. So I know exactly how much money I will make by the end of the year from Wealthfront, just because I have my baseline, and then I get that 5% on that every single day. Where SCHD is not only paying out between 3 and 4% as a dividend, but it's also increasing in appreciating by 47% over the past 5 years. So that is a very easy and cheap way. I believe an SCHD stock costs around $70. So you could buy one of those just log into Robinhood, and it's very, very easy to get started on your first investment and start earning a little passive income through that. So outside of ETFs and stocks, one of the other things they mentioned are REITs. So that's a real estate investment trust. And I've actually been invested in REITs for a long time. And it's basically the same thing as an ETF, but for real estate. And that's not a sophisticated answer. That's just how I understand it. Basically, a group can go own a bunch of real estate, and you can just buy into that. So this is a really, really easy way to get invested in real estate without having to put down a down payment and find people to put in an apartment, or buy something that is going to take a lot of management. You're easily just buying into a professional real estate company and or really big real estate business, and earning from that automatically. So one of the ones that they talk about specifically is ticker symbol O. So I'm not very familiar with this ticker symbol. I looked it up, and over the past 5 years, it is down 22%. So I'm not exactly sure that this is one that I would be excited to invest in. I like to look at the long term, like 5 or 10 years of performance, and see how it's done. If it's down 22% over the past year, that's fine. But if it's, if it hasn't been going up over the past 5 years, maybe there's a trend there that it's not going to keep going up. So the nice thing about O that I could find is it does have about a 6% dividend yield, which is pretty high, but probably not worth the depreciation of 22%. So the other one that they mentioned, and one that I've personally been invested in for many, many years, is PSA. And again, the reason why I like REITs is it's so easy to get involved, and it's so cheap. You can just go in and buy one share of PSA, and start earning interest on that. And that can appreciate in a pretty impactful way. So I've owned PSA again for years, and it's up 145% for me, which is amazing. And it was going up so steadily, but also so much that I stopped investing into it a few years back. But it's now, at least year to date, it's down 10%. So kind of re-looking at that one. It's one I haven't thought about in a while. But re-looking at that one, maybe it's time to buy a little more PSA for me. But overall, I think the main takeaway is, even though in the very beginning it's not, well, it may feel overwhelming to buy and invest into um, your first investment, but it is very simple. Everyone's made it very simple. I use Robinhood. I also use Charles Schwab. There's a number of ways that you can invest, and then uh, the big thing is just take that first step. So you can take that first step, start making your money work for you. And there's a handful of retirement accounts that you can also invest through. And that was one of the golden nuggets I took away from this podcast, was the Roth IRA bit, which he calls out specifically someone that's like, oh, I'm invested in a Roth. And then he says, okay, well, what's that Roth invested in? And they're like, oh, it's invested in a Roth. And actually, when I first started back when I was, I don't know, I was in my late teens or early 20s, and I had money set aside in a Roth, and I had paid money into my Roth for 3 years, 2 or 3 years at least, when I found out that you don't just put it in a Roth, you then have to invest it. So I lost a lot, and it's still good. It's good that I had an early start. Overall, it's good. But once you put money into your Roth, you then have to invest that money. That may seem obvious to a lot of people, but the fact that he called that out, and he has heard of people that have ran into that issue. I personally ran into that issue, and it's just not worth it to have money that is just sitting there in cash in a Roth when it should be earning interest and growing tax free. So anyway, that's kind of my takeaways from that podcast. I really loved it. Hope you guys loved it too. Again, I shared the link with you guys for that podcast if you want to go back and look for it. And tomorrow, I have another great one. It's called Going from 100K to 1 million. So I'll share that here. And check it out. It's amazing. It really dives into how getting your first 100K is the hardest, and then how long it takes from once you get your first 100K to get to 1 million. And then it kind of dives into how things look beyond there. So I think you'll learn a lot. I definitely learned a lot. And thank you so much for tuning in. Nick, thank you for telling me about the audio so I don't have a full video that it has nothing. You're the man. Anyway, take it easy. Peace.